you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Good morning. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I know I did, in case we missed a couple of people. It was nice. Was really moving into Christmas now. It is December 1st. And before I get into any of the polling stuff, I have to tell you, make sure, parents, you hit those lists and hit them now. Because if you thought last year was difficult, whoa boy. This year is even going to be much worse. So, don't wait till the last minute this year is my point. Right, Laura?
Right.
Don't wait till the last minute, because it's just not going to happen, especially if it's something that is a little bit difficult, So I just wanted to say that as like a public service announcement. Okay.
And then behoove you to do so.
And then listen, I got to address this. I completely did this on purpose to flip people out. I did this on purpose because, one, it's true. But also, two, I just wanted to make a problem. I just wanted to be a problem starter for a sec. I wanted to be a Cernovich really fast, right? So I tweeted the other day. That was yesterday? 2 days ago? 2 days ago, right? 2 days ago. 2 days ago. Monday morning. Yeah. Or no, maybe it was. I don't know. I'm losing track. I'm so damn busy. I'm losing track. But basically, I basically tweeted, that today's musical artists suck, because they do. Most of them. And I'm making generalizations here, right? I'm talking about talent, compositions, right? Anybody who plays the guitar, the piano, horn, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Singing. I mean, there's some great vocalists out there. But as a whole, genres are not what they used to be. And I even included various genres, because I did 30 years ago and people are like, boomer. Dude, I'm Gen Y. I always thought I was Gen X. But apparently, if I go, I went and checked just to make sure. I guess I'm on the cusp of X and Y. But anyway, I'm not a boomer. And it doesn't matter, because I like music hundreds of years old. and I like music that is a day old. But it doesn't change the fact that the reason why we're weak in genres now is because there is less talent. There was a wealth of genres three decades ago with a wealth of talent in them. And that is just, some of that people say, oh, it's the music industry, how it changed. Yeah, but did the music industry stop Jimmy Page from writing guitar solos the way he wanted to write them? Did The Who or Styx, by the way, bands I don't really like, all right, in their time, did they compose music because they thought it was what, California wanted to hear? No, they didn't. They were doing their own thing. Queen, Jesus, did Freddie Mercury compose Bohemian Rhapsody because he thought his record label was going to love it? They hated it. They hated it. They thought it was going to be a bomb. He left as one person. You people are so full of crap. All right? You're so full of crap. I couldn't stand Kurt Cobain, right? Couldn't stand him. But there was no denying the man's lyrical and mild instrumental, but his songwriting abilities were incredible. I personally couldn't stand the way he was moving the music into like grunge, which I thought was like the darker side of America and the more mediocre side of America, but there's no denying his talent. Are you seriously, because one person did this, are you seriously going to compare Taylor Swift to Whitney Houston? Are you joking? Talent is not subjective, and that's really the problem if you want to get into generational differences here. That's the problem with modern generations compared to prior generations. Everything to you, including truth, is subjective. No, it's objective. I either play the guitar better than you or you play it better than me. You can either play things that I can't play or I can play things that you can't play. Because somebody else thinks they're, to their ear, they like their 4-chord song better, does not mean they're a better artist than somebody who can play the Trans-Siberian Orchestra's version of Carol to the Bells. All right? Or Steve Vai, for that matter, right? Or somebody like that. I mean, it's a lot like truth. It's not subjective. There isn't your truth and my truth. There's the truth.
You either suck or you don't.
Yeah. I mean, let's get out of here. And I don't have to like somebody or their genre to recognize that they are talented. All right. So moving on. All right. So let's, you know what I really want to get into? Yeah, Brody. I just saw the corner. Chris Cornell. I got to be honest with you. I didn't even like him. But you can't deny how talented he was in songwriting capabilities and others. All right. So I really want to focus heavily because the number one thing people said to me this month on this poll, which I stared at again as a recap, probably could have been out a day early, but I stared at it because I just really honestly couldn't believe how bad it was. Like I know when you do this as long as I have, and again, generalities, that's what statisticians do. They speak in generalities. I don't know what to tell you, right? You know how certain people should respond. Even in bad environments for one party or the other, you still would expect certain people to, on the whole, generally speaking, respond a certain way. You would expect certain partisans to tell you answers to certain questions like the Consumer Confidence Index and the Consumer Sentiment Index, all right, and our Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index. They still have this wide, ever since Obama, this wide gap between partisans who usually reality, the independents will track with the partisans who are reflecting reality, or at least closer. So it's a good economy under Donald Trump. The independents were tracking much closer to Republicans than Democrats, who repeatedly told Nielsen, who does CCI, and the Survey of Consumers at the University of Michigan, repeatedly telling these people it's a bad economy, even though they were doing the best they have ever done, right? And the same thing is true under, it really that gap started under Barack Obama, but it got much worse under Donald Trump because Democrats really widened out their gap between everyone else and them. This time around, I saw some like converging in the registered voter economic confidence index this month. And you could see some fracturing in Joe Biden's base. Now, you get to the generic ballot, and largely speaking, 2% of Republicans are going to vote for Democrats, 4% of Democrats are going to vote for Republicans. That's not what caused the R plus 8, generic ballot lead we have, which is crazy to me. I mean, still, I got to be honest with you guys. I struggle when we come out with numbers like that. I don't like it because I just feel now Democrats can win a national popular vote by 8 points. They can. It's difficult for Republicans to do that well. Now, it's not obvious, very clearly, not impossible. Because what is happening is this just a ginormous swing among independents. They were plus 12 for Democrats in 2018. They're plus 20, roughly, for Republicans going into 2020. And we're 2022. We're not the only ones who found this, by the way. We're about the fourth pollster to find this insanely large lead for Republican generic candidates. Ironically, though, there's still not that much base cracking when it comes to voting for different generic candidates. Now, when it comes to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden up against Donald Trump, and I suspect another high-name Republican if one emerges, there is fracture. So there are large numbers of Biden voters who would, again, vote for Donald Trump. But, I really, as we track this moving forward, keep an eye on that someone else category, all right? That is much bigger with the head-to-head presidential matchups than it is with the generic ballot. If you guys have looked at it and you've seen it, which I know you have. That will shrink. I don't know how much, but it tends to. It did in 2016. It definitely did in 2020. Democrats and the media did a very good job making third-party voters irrelevant. But in 2016, they were not irrelevant and won, it's both. I mean, Jill Stein was probably the most serious Green Party candidate since Ralph Nader.
Easy.
Right? Easily. And Gary Johnson was a significant Libertarian Party candidate. They put forward decent challenges. Now, Democrats did everything they could to keep Libertarians and Greens and others off the ballots in states, particularly battleground states. If you can get a few, then you can kill some of that incentive for people in other states to want to vote for them. Because you're like, well, they're not even on the ballot in all 50 states. In 2016, they were. But in 2020, they were not. So a lot of people told us, you know what, I would vote for Jo Jorgensen. But she has no chance, and really has no chance being on different ballots. The same was true with Howie Hawkins. Oh, they removed him in a very key battleground state. What's the point? So some people are, smarter. They're more sophisticated. I wanted to talk about Oz. I do want to talk about Oz. We will get into Dr. Oz replacing Sean Parnell, which he is going to do in Pennsylvania. Sean Parnell has suspended his campaign. I think effectively, now that I have had time to review what happened here, this is very sad to me. Whether you like Sean Parnell or not is irrelevant. I think what we saw is essentially the weaponization of family court. And they went on to and I could bring this up. I'll remind people about his documentary screening tonight. But what I think we saw was the weaponization of family court to take out the leading Republican candidate for Senate in Pennsylvania, who clearly not only had a decent chance, but I would argue after some of the results we found was favored to win. And now we have, look, family court's ugly, guys. Family court is ugly. I don't know who has a family anymore that doesn't have some horrible history with family court and divorce and custody battles where people say things about each other that are horrible. It's much easier to do so because in a criminal proceeding, if you perjure yourself or you file a false complaint, you could be in a lot of trouble. In family court, it's like, oh yeah, he's a wife beater. Oh, that woman drinks too much. She beats the kids. You know what? I watched her put my son's hand on the stove, I mean, they do this to each other. Anyone who works in this arena, they will tell you it is a bunch of bitter, angry, you know what? At the core, hurt people who lash out and do horrible things. Now, sadly, when we're talking about political candidates, I do believe that Sean Parnell got a horrible rap here, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, and neither do you. The point is, go and look. If anyone is, the product of a divorce, have been in a divorce yourself, and dog eat dog battle over custody, dog eat dog battle, then you know what I'm saying is true. You tell some tall tales to get those kids, don't you? And they just kind of ferret it out. So that leaves. So I do think it's disgusting. But that leaves Dr. Oz, who is not going to be someone who suffices for a lot of the Republican base. He's got a lot of work to do. All right, but I don't want to get too sidetracked. We'll get back. Parnell is going to support him, I think. I do, because there's really not that much time. And we need, to look at this from the perspective of, if you're Parnell, you can't take someone from the ground up here and build them up and reintroduce them to a state with 4.5 million voters, 5 million, whatever. It's really should always been 4. But and just say, you know what, vote for this guy. It's not going. You need some kind of name recognition. I can tell you, Oz has been a Republican for quite a while, and that he's in a. I don't want to. I'll let him speak for himself. All right, but I think you'll find that he's probably more Republican than you may think. All right, or more new Republican than you may think. All right. Yeah, I mean, I understand people are upset with Parnell. If you really liked him, you really liked him. So I see some of the comments in there from people who are like that, and that is the way. That is the way. Sometimes I think it's really terrible that we saw the weaponization of a family court to take out the leading contender for the U.S. Senate, and I think if this continues, man, that sucks. It'll get even, believe me, it'll get even uglier. But I want to get back to what I saw in the numbers here, and I'll start putting some up. But everybody say, why was it so bad? Why was it so bad? Joe Biden had held on, and Democrats had held on pretty well when it came to, let me see if I can get this a better one than this. When it came to the Northeast and certain parts of the far west, California. But there is, and I want to talk about that today too, redistricting in California and other places. All right. What I really saw this month was economic pain start to hit those, because it really didn't come from partisans, is where I'm coming from here. I mean, some fracture in the Democratic base, but this came from a very big swing among non-party affiliated and third-party voters. Now, if you've been watching and keeping eye on our polling project, about 6 months ago, the third-party vote started to really fracture. And I had stressed at the time how important this was. These were the voters that big media and everybody. And I think I tell you what, I think there's obviously some legitimacy to this. Third-party voters are the ones who sat out or voted for a third party in 2016, who came over to Joe Biden this time and gave him a few more thousand votes in the states where he needed it. I don't know how Democrats recover these people at this point. They started out with a solid approval rating for Joe Biden, and the bottom just fell out. And part of this is problems with the pandemic. There's a realization now that under Joe Biden, we've suffered a lot worse than under Donald Trump. It's just a reality. And Joe Biden wasn't, hit with this as a surprise out of nowhere. And he was handed a vaccination rollout program. So people are really frustrated with him over this. The looming lockdowns, you have Dr. Fauci, his right-hand man, and Ron Klain, talking about potential lockdowns again. And people are just like, this is crazy. This is nuts. It didn't work. They're starting to get that old, the old expression, repeating over and over, expecting different results, like the definition of insanity. That's where these people are coming down now. And they're not particularly partisan people. And I think under the era of Donald Trump. It did make us more, in many ways, it made us more partisan, pushed us to our respective corners, but it left this group of people, I think, in the middle that weren't there under Barack Obama because they, figured themselves to be, well, I do support Obama or I don't. But I don't know. The media just went so hard after Donald Trump, pushed everybody and left this chunk in the middle. And I think that swingable chunk now looks like Wisconsin nationally. What Wisconsin used to look like, only nationally, where it's a much bigger chunk than we thought. And this number of independents, self-identified independents, when we know what their registrations are, is going up. The number of third party actually ticked down a little bit this month. Sometimes they've been as high as 7% in our surveys. Now this month they were about 4%. But at the same time, that was completely negated by the non-party affiliates becoming closer to them. So only 20% approve of Joe Biden in the third party category. Well, now only 30% of non-party affiliates approve of the job he is doing. Some of these approval and actually maybe I should have showed that first. Some of these numbers on issues are absolutely abysmal. You would not find such negatives under Trump. You just didn't, especially not in the first year, even after Russia collusion. We just didn't have that. We didn't see that. Let me get rid of some of this so I don't have an issue later with, We're not going with this? I can click this off and get rid of this? Okay. All right, we're not doing that. That's out. I think locals, I'm going to have to leave you for Laura. Laura, tell me what I'm missing because I think that's giving me an issue. But, yeah, unfortunately, I think it does. All right, I probably should have showed first the registered voter. That's up. That's ready to go. But the approval rating for Joe Biden on issues. Here we go. Okay. Hold on. Give me one second.
I bet you I know the answer. Joe Biden is the issue.
Oh, that is a pretty good comeback. That is pretty snappy. Whoever said that, was that you, Laura? Or was
that was Laura.
All right. Once I'll come back to that. We'll come back to, because I'll show you what is making up those negative registered voter numbers. All right. But actually, let me make this big and me small so you can see a little bit better. All right. The economy and jobs, 38.5% approve, 58.7% disapprove, and only 2.7% are undecided. How many times over the course of 10 months, 12 months now, almost about 10 months, how many times over the course of 10 months did I tell you to watch these purple numbers? Especially when it came to the economy and jobs and coronavirus. Go back and look at the tracking, which we can do. A lot of Joe Biden's artificial number was from this somewhat approve, and also this, since the era of Trump anyway, ridiculously high number of people who would say, I don't know, right? That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Whether it was the overall approval of him or issues, everybody had an opinion. And maybe 1 to 2, maybe 3 tops were undecided. And then we saw a return to a kind of a bloating of undecided under Joe Biden. Every time this has shrunk, it has gone into the red category, the disapprove category. This is actually one of his better ratings, negative 10.2. I kid you not. And I said how many times over the course of this polling project, even when we still had Joe Biden above water, and let's look real quick, I can pull up just to overlay it, the trend here. This is Joe Biden's overall approval rating, okay? Even when he was soaring, the vaccine rollout was doing well, all was well in the neighborhood, right? Even when that was happening, all the other issues didn't look great. What was looking great was his COVID, which tracked almost perfectly. You could almost overlay that trend. But then it started to take a turn. The Delta variant, right? Afghanistan did not cause the fall of Joe Biden's approval rating. That is a misnomer. It is incorrect. His approval began to fall when COVID began, voters began to sour on him over the coronavirus, his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Now we are firmly negative, after being about even in the last public polling project, but the trend was clear. And we're at 43.4% approve and 54.2% disapprove. Folks, if you don't think this has to do with the mandates, you're nuts. If you don't think this has to do with the looming threat of other shutdowns, you're nuts. If you don't think this has to do with the threat that my child may permanently have to wear a mask in school, you're nuts. What this really came down to, though, was that Joe Biden made, and this is going to sound familiar because I've been saying it for a while, Joe Biden made an impossible campaign promise. An impossible promise to keep. That he was somehow going to shut down the virus, not the economy. That he was going to handle the virus better than Donald Trump, who's been, it's all because Donald Trump was really irresponsible and didn't wear a mask in public. If you're a thinking person, you kind of had to know that was ridiculous. That the president of the United States may be an extremely powerful man, but he cannot control a viral particle. That nothing Joe Biden was going to do. By the way, Joe Biden now embraces travel bans, doesn't he? That was xenophobic a little bit ago. While Trump was still president, that was a xenophobe move. Now Omicron's coming and boy, lock it down. This will hurt the economy. Donald Trump knew when he did that it was going to, hurt the economy, which he did not want to do. And he was called xenophobic for it. People aren't as stupid as Chris Cuomo, mediaites, and others hope they are. They're not. And politicians, by the way. And that middle, which has gotten bigger, is starting to see this impossible campaign promise was not real. There's no other way to put it. And they're hurting. So they're not getting anything better on the pandemic. And now economically, they're afraid. The word is afraid. It's not concerned. They're afraid. And they look at what government's doing and spending more. Their number one concern is the cost of goods, inflation, cost of living, shelter, gas in your car, food, groceries was number one. Well, look at that. Again, if I can find it, I can't afford it. If I can't afford it, if I can afford it, I can't find it. Yeah. And if I can't find it, I can't afford it. Yeah, reverse. But take that to the bank because that's what's going on here. And now the undecided category with COVID is decisively lower. And where did it go? It went into oppose. And actually, some of this, it's hard to get all of the 4% or so that moved over. It's hard to attribute that decline from 47 approved to 43. That's hard to attribute that all from undecided. It was lopsided, yeah, but there were certain changers here. You said, you know what, I approve, now I don't. There's the smaller group, but months before they weren't the smaller group. That undecided was kind of holding firm. It was people just simply changing their minds. Yep, he's doing a great job. The rollout's doing well. 2 months later, nope, I changed my mind. I mean, people are going to have to start to come to grips with this is what is really happening. You could stick your head in the sand. You could call me whatever name. Pick one. I am right. This is happening. I'm right, like I was right about Virginia, like I was right about the Georgia. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican and you don't like the numbers in Georgia. I was right. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat and you don't like the numbers in Virginia. I was right. We've been doing this little dance now for years. So if I'm telling you this is really happening, this is the ugliest poll for Democrats I can even remember. By the way, Mike had to thank you for the shout out on Maria Bartiromo, who, by the way, was nodding her head as if she had read all through this poll.
Not surprised.
Not surprising. Why? Because there's an economic confidence index. All right. Immigration and border security is Joe Biden's worst issue. Again, though, I can't tell you how much the first two matter. They matter more than anything. Immigration and border security, I heard a lot of people. I hear you. I will take it out of the other and I will put it in its own top issue next time. It's in other right now, along with election reform. And election reform actually had slightly more than immigration. All right. But I hear you and I will take it out because maybe it's not being driven as a top issue right now, but there is a border crisis. There is a situation at the border. So I think it's worthwhile. I heard your criticisms. I think they're at least valid. I'll throw it in there next time. It'll be its own thing. If it's its own thing for Joe Biden's approval, it should have been in the most important issue category. It should have been a choice on its own, all alone. And I hear you, and I'll change that. All right, immigration and border security, 32% flat approve of the job Joe Biden's doing on immigration and border security. I'm stunned at this number. 62.8% disapprove of the job Joe Biden is doing at the border. Only 5.3% were undecided. This is his worst issue. It is negative 30.8. It's his worst issue, not even incredibly, I can't say by far because the economy is 20.2. You know, so that's actually one of his coronavirus at negative 10 is really his best one. 10.8, I believe, something like that. Crime, 34.6 approve, 59% disapprove. So now we're really starting to get on par with like people like Quinnipiac here and Suffolk University. That's where our trend is heading. U.S.-China relations, a bomb. 31.1, which, yeah, some people say, well, I thought China was where it was, but not the overall gap. So approval was a little bit lower than immigration and border security, but the disapproval was not, so the gap isn't as much. All right. But it's damn close. 31.1% approve of the job he is doing, handling U.S.-China relations. 59.3 disapprove. 9.6, which is still makes U.S.-China relations the largest undecided issue, or the issue with the largest number of undecideds. Consequently, the second is foreign policy, where still 34.3% approve, 57.8% disapprove. And on our episode with the gaggle, pole vaulting with the gaggle, that was a great episode. If you guys missed that earlier this week, check it out. I love talking to George and Peter. We do once a month on theirs, once a month on ours. And they were making the point that if you really take jobs in the economy, coronavirus is a new thing, but jobs in the economy and foreign policy and immigration, those are the three where presidents are typically tracked. The approval rating for presidents has been tracked on immigration, foreign policy, and jobs in the economy for years, for many years, outside of their overall approval rating. If you look at just those three issues, it's abysmal. He's in the 30s. The new one, coronavirus, while negative, he still has some 40+% support, even though the majority now opposes a solid, 54.2 is a solid majority. It's, he's still at least got a closer gap there, but that's a relatively new thing. On every measure where or every issue where presidents are measured based on their performance, Joe Biden is in historically low territory. Without COVID, Joe Biden would be, like Steve likes to say, below Nixon headed to the helicopter. And yet, this is why Republican voters are angry. And yet, they are pushovers in Congress to an agenda that voters don't want. Meanwhile, while Donald Trump was president, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi didn't give an inch. The man didn't even get a full cabinet. 3 years into his administration, he doesn't even have a full government because they would refuse to confirm it, nominate it. So that's the frustration you see with Republican voters right now. They're just furious. They finally have independents really on their side. aligned in their column. We don't want government spending. They finally have that. And they're giving it away. So I got to tell you, like I said, it's historically high. The generic ballot we have for Republicans right now, true, it's historically high. But I have to tell you, it's not impossible for them to blow this. It absolutely is. Hell, if anyone can do it, the Republican Party can do it. Just keep going the way you're going. All right, I pulled some away. The next thing I want to take a look at, because to drive this point, I mean, this is the point here. Before we get to the voter confidence. Come on. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? All right. You know what? Let's get the whole layout. Let's see if this makes sense to you guys. I may have to zoom in a little bit. But again, I hate to beat a dead horse here, but I'm not sure the Republican Party can become the party they want to become if they don't change faces. And I'm not trying to pick a fight here, but with the upper echelon of the party here, but the facts are the facts. And if you look at where Kevin McCarthy's trend has been and Mitch McConnell's trend have been, it's negative. It's not good. And that comes from, why is it different for Nancy Pelosi? Why is it different for Chuck Schumer? Because their party, their voters, circle the wagons. They rally behind them. Why? I suspect it's because their voters feel represented. Their voters feel defended. Yeah, Kevin McCarthy got up and made a big speech. He didn't do what Nancy Pelosi would have done, which was drag them by their hair or whatever behind a closed door in a dark, cigar smoke-filled room and twisted their arm until they said, "Uncle." How does she do that? With threats? Good luck finding a dime if you vote yes for this bill. Good luck with this if you vote. She's ruthless. And the voters appreciate it for it. They appreciate her for it. They love it. Whatever it takes. Damn that moderate Republican. Either you get moderate Democrat. Either you get that blue dog in line or we're wheeling out the gallows, boy.
And they ain't playing.
And they're not playing. But she handles it. And they can rely on her for it. Take a look at that 23.8% number for Kevin McCarthy right now. Never heard of, no opinion. Let's go back a little bit, shall we? Come on, don't mess up now. We're going to do this. I'll pull another one.
Thank you.
So annoying.
I don't like when I see spinning, Richie. You get
nervous.
I know.
You know what? We'll go back to the first one. That's good enough. Even if we just go all the way back to the very first. Or let's go back to, what is this, late spring, early summer? No, this is even late summer. Yeah, let's go back to late summer. This is good enough. This will make my point. Because they saw the first one anyway. Stop screen. All right, you're going to see the back end for the... In the interest of time, you're just going to see my back end, the back end of it. I don't really care.
Don't be showing people your back end. You're too fresh.
I know, right?
Naughty man.
Nasty. I'm naughty.
Naughty. All
right, so that number fell about 7 points since late summer, where it was 30 even. And you guys know, I mean, if you've been tracking the project, you know in the spring, it was a little over 30. And at one point, it was pushing about a third who said that they don't know or never heard of Kevin McCarthy. And at the time, 25.8% had a very unfavorable opinion of him. Oh, I thought you were seeing that. You're not. There it is. Okay. Look, you can see right here. Here is the 30% never heard of, no opinion. Look at these two numbers. 25.8 said they had a very unfavorable opinion, and 17.6 had a somewhat unfavorable opinion of him. Okay, let's stop this one, remove it, add the other puppy back, and you'll see the difference. Well, now, where did this come from? I mean, come on. Where do you think it came from? Came from people knowing, not knowing him, then getting to know him a little bit and disliking him more. So 6 points, the never heard of, no opinion category falls 6.2%. And the very unfavorable climbs, let's get the exact number here, about 4%. And the somewhat unfavorable climbs, another 3%. When it comes to Mitch McConnell, I kid you not, there are more Democrats now, and it was always about even. There are slightly more Democrats who told us they had a very favorable opinion of Mitch McConnell than Republicans. Now, somewhat favorable is another story, but why is it, do you think, so many Democrats will tell you they have a favorable opinion of the opposition leader? Do you think it's because they like him? It's because they think he's a pushover. It's because they appreciate that he doesn't fight their agenda. Or at least he's not successful in fighting it. When it comes to Kevin McCarthy, 13.5% of Republicans have a very favorable view of him. About 7.8% of Democrats do. It's not that far off. Among somewhat unfavorables, in the somewhat favorables, I mean, Republicans, about a quarter there, which is where he garners most of it from. That compares to 12.9% of Democrats and about 15% of independents. 27.1% of independents still have no idea who he is, but 28.6% now have a very unfavorable opinion, and another 24.3% have a somewhat unfavorable. So he is underwater with independents of 52%, majority plus, slightly plus, have an unfavorable view of Kevin McCarthy. It is unclear to me how you rally the troops with numbers like this.
Statistically,
it is unclear to me. Like, but the difference with Democrats is that at least their troops will rally to them.
Yes. But with numbers like this,
it's just ridiculous. Mitch McConnell, if I was Mitch McConnell, I would resign.
Yes.
I would resign.
I'd be embarrassed.
I'd be embarrassed, and I would resign. Now, I know there's a lot more at play, and I'm being idealistic because I'm thinking only about, what they should be thinking about, which is their opinion among voters. I would resign if 6.7% of my own party had a very favorable opinion of me. If 3.5% of independents had a very, very favorable opinion of me. Folks, 9.2% of Democrats said they did. Now, overall, Democrats have a less favorable than Republicans, but not much more than Democrats, than independents, I mean. And it's not much more than Republicans. Overall, now combined, 41.3% have a very unfavorable opinion of Mitch McConnell. 21.7% have a somewhat unfavorable, putting together a grand total and brand new high of 63.0% unfavorable opinion of Mitch McConnell. Oh, by the way, 25.5% combined are favorable. He's approaching -40, ladies and gentlemen.
That's special.
You have got to be kidding me. How could you look yourself in the mirror every day? Well, I guess you should. I'll tell you how. You look in the mirror briefly until you realize how fat your wallet is. Then you look down, pull it out of your pocket, go rifle through it, rifle through the Benjis, and giggle your way to your E-Trade account. Which you shouldn't be trading in, but nobody ever gets in trouble for it. Mm-hmm. So what difference does it make? Oh, it's 2 o'clock. I got to go. It's time for my 2 p.m. appointment with Nancy and our $14,000 scoop of ice cream. That's how you live with it. But this is just, I have a challenge for you. Now, I know we haven't been tracking this as long as Gallup's been tracking presidential approval. But let's go back together as a community, locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. Let's go back as a community and try to find favorables or approvals for congressional leaders that are this bad. And you can't just use Congress, approval of Congress. I don't even ask that question because it's just so bad now. I don't really find much value in it. Mm-hmm. The Trusted Institution Index, there's value in that. Adding Congress to the many in the matrix that we do, ask federal governments, agencies and federal government, etc. etc.
etc.
Right? What was it, John McElroy? Okay.
However you say his
What
name.
a fantastic actor. Crazy, but fantastic, right? He nailed that part. But anyway, and let's see if we can find some comparable Congress here or congressional lead. We're not going to find it. Actually, it is fair though to explain that everybody took a hit this month. All right. Chuck Schumer, this is the worst number we found for Chuck Schumer ever. I don't think we've ever been close to majority negative for Chuck Schumer. And it's not that he's not negative. He is, but he's not that net negative. And there aren't huge majorities that can't stand him. A lot of people really don't know who he is. And he comes across very well to his own party. His own party has a pretty good impression of him. Independents, they don't really know that much about him, but you know what they do. They don't hate it. He's been very good at doing this. Nancy Pelosi, on the other hand, not so much. I mean, she has been, well, a lot of it is self-induced, self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah.
But it is also true that she is the number one target of Republican ads every 2 years and has been since the passage of Obamacare, which was her ultimate betrayal. When she knew the country did not want that bill, and the country really, I don't think, has ever forgiven her for it, even as people got more positive towards views on the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, grew more positive because of some of these, it's protections for pre-existing conditions. That's what made Obamacare popular. That's about it, but it is. Ever since then, even as those provisions got more popular, she has not. And in fact, continues to get unpopular. Because I think once you stab voters in the back like that, it really doesn't matter. She knew damn well the voters didn't want it. She didn't give a damn. I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
But also to sue them by saying, you just need to vote for it.
We'll
figure out what's
in
it.
You got it. Yeah. Have you read the bill? No, we got to vote for it before we figure out what's in it, before we find out what's in it.
Fish and chips.
I mean, that was one of the dumbest political statements in the history of American politics.
I think it is.
Definitely modern American politics.
It
hasn't left at least the top 3.
Yeah, at least.
We should put together a list for the end of the year. We always do cool things for the new year. We should figure out like dumbest this of this year, top whatever. We always did that.
And we only could pick one from Biden.
Yeah.
Because there's just too many.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you can't have one person say something more than once.
Yeah. End quote.
Yeah.
That
End of quote.
End of quote.
Which he said more than once alone.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know that, but everyone circulated that the other day that he read end of quote off the teleprompter. The truth is, Laura and I have heard him do that because we follow stuff a little more closely. Things people may not watch, He said that at least one other time before that we found. So it might be 3. It might be 3 times. So, which we're looking for. And it's not new. This is routine.
This is bad.
But let me just get into real quick.
Go ahead.
The difference, though, I would say, with Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell boasts the highest overall unfavorable rating. Okay? And has now for several months. And he's at his new high of 63 flat.
Woo.
Nancy Pelosi is at 59 flat, unfavorable. Here's where she tops Mitch, though. The very unfavorable, 48.2% is the highest out of anybody. And that has been the case since we started the public polling project. That has not changed. Even if Mitch McConnell's goes higher, 41, he usually hovered around 38, but even he is in the 40s now. She has gone from the mid 40s to the high 40s. Very unfavorable. Where is that coming from? Independents and third parties. You know how it works in our polling. They now majority have a very unfavorable opinion of her. And Republicans are at 85.7%. I mean, these are really incredible numbers. But again, 37% of Democrats have a very favorable opinion of her, and 35.5% have a somewhat unfavorable opinion of her. Only 9.2% have a very unfavorable opinion. That is the total opposite of what we see with Republican voters and their leaders, like Mitch McConnell. This is the opposite. It's incredible when you really dissect into these. And if you guys go and check out the congressional leader favorability trend, which, well, you're looking at it right now, but I posted the link to people. If you guys check that out, click on the crosstab link in the bottom corner here. Every single one you go through, you'll see view interactive crosstabs. That will open up and take you to the market site crosstabs. Look in by party. Who makes up their overall favorabilities and unfavorables? Mm-hmm. The story is Republicans hate their own leaders. Democrats do not. All right? And that is a serious problem. I think, by the way, Derek, I think you're right. Buttigieg, I think, is at least now has risen because Kamala Harris has become so unpopular. His star has risen to the top on who on earth will replace Biden. Now, Biden has said again publicly last week he is running for office in 2024. Does anybody seriously believe that? I mean, does anyone seriously? I mean, these articles say he's assuring people that he's running again. I don't know who you're putting at ease with that comment, because the fact is your numbers are in the tank and your number twos is worse. Ironically, against Donald Trump, she loses more of the black vote than Joe Biden does. This is her approval by party. All right. And I'm doing this in the first hour. Next hour, we're going to look at the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index and top issues. And also, we're going to look at some of the mandate stuff. There's a lot more in here than what we were able to go over before Thanksgiving. And I think it's important. So 5.2% Republican approval, which probably is already a little bit too high, but that's statistics, folks. People always ask me, who are these 5% of Republicans? That's statistics. That's how it works. You know, sometimes you'll have a little bit more. Democrats, about 16% disapprove, which is, incredible. Close to 6. It's like, well, 14, 15, let's say 15.6. Disapprove of the job that Kamala Harris is doing. 80.3% of Republicans strongly disapprove. 12.3% somewhat disapprove, coming to a grand total of 92.6%. So against Donald Trump in a hypothetical matchup, she gets like no crossover. All right. Independents and others, 47.4% strongly disapprove. Another nearly 20%, nearly 1 in 5, 19.3%, somewhat disapprove. Her disapproval among independents, folks, her disapproval is in the 60s. And not just a little bit. All right. I mean, that is a seriously bad. It's 66.7%. 2/3 of independents. So when you saw those numbers with Suffolk, and you saw, which was worse than ours, they had her at, I think, 28%. And you saw those numbers with Quinnipiac, we see it. We don't see it as bad as 28%, but we see it. It's bad. 36% of the country approves. She is in historically unpopular territory. Dan Quayle wasn't this unpopular. Dan Quayle. Some of you were alive to remember Dan Quayle. Mm-hmm. Herbert Walker Bush's vice president. The guy was not. And honestly, if you meet him in person, he's much sharper, which is not saying much, but he's much sharper in person. He was not a great public figure. He didn't have the talents to be a public figure. And he wasn't well liked. He was widely viewed as somewhat of a simpleton. And people were very concerned about if Herbert Walker Bush wasn't able to be president anymore, Dan Quayle would take the reins. It didn't bode well for his reelection. You know, it wasn't confidence inspiring. But this was a major malpractice on the part of the Trump campaign to not hammer this more. Because even when we were finding Kamala Harris with much better numbers, which we did, and because we've been polling, it's not like she started like this in our trend. Mm-hmm. She got unpopular. All right. With that in mind. Sleep her way out. Yeah, she. Oh boy, I'm not repeating. You almost got me to repeat that.
I'm sorry.
She didn't start here. She ended here. Okay. And Donald Trump's campaign, it was malpractice for them not to hammer this aspect more because she did not inspire the black vote. She wasn't the reason why Joe Biden supposedly, I mean, Barack Obama must have a hard time sleeping at night going along with this charade. All right. But anyway, I'm just going to leave it there. This is not a popular person who people, and we asked in a public polling project prior to the election, people were not comfortable with the idea of Kamala Harris being the president if Joe Biden could no longer serve out his term. And the Trump campaign kind of left that on the table. You know, they did not go after that. And that was a mistake because in battle, 52%, I think, in Florida were uncomfortable, and I think 40 or 41 were very uncomfortable. So he won Florida, but those numbers were like were like that across the battleground states, and he just didn't tackle it. Somebody making some. I could see you laughing. So I'm hearing some of the words that I'm saying, and I'm thinking what you said. Yeah. All right, and I must be having a field day with it. All right, we're going to take a real quick break on the hour here. All right.
Can you see my permagrid?
Yeah, and Bonnie, this is what I'm talking about when Rush Limbaugh was right about Mitch McConnell, and John Thune is, because I'll tell you right, I'm going to end the hour before we take this break with something I know, little inside information here. Mitch McConnell does not intend to be majority leader if Republicans take the Senate again, but he does intend to give it to John Thune,
okay,
which is his personally groomed big oil protege. Yeah, and he stands for basically everything the modern Republican Party, the modern America First Republican Party, doesn't want anything to do with anymore. So there's a serious problem within the Republican Party. Democrats are making more gains getting their party to represent their values, which are increasingly different from prior both parties. But it's amazing because Democrats, for sure, when it comes to traditional American values, things that we all used to be able to agree on, it is the Democrats who have moved away from that. Let's be honest, it is. Now, you can agree with that or not. I mean, you can agree with their decision to do that or not. Maybe you didn't like something about traditional America, the Constitution. But it's really not up for debate which party moved further away from the Bill of Rights, right? Only one, trusts the security state to handle all of our security needs. Only one doesn't believe in the protections of the Fourth Amendment with search and seizure. Now, because I would argue the Republican Party are the ones who opened the door to that. Mm-hmm. The Bush Republican Party. They made all of this possible. Now what happened is that Democrats woke up and realized, you know what, it would be really beneficial to us if we controlled all of that instead of opposed it and turned it all around on that. And that's what they did. Right?
And here we are.
So in any event, Democrats are having much more success in getting their party to represent their changing values. Republicans, ironically, are not, even though they are the ones who are trying to get the party to return to their original values. Donald Trump did not create America First. All Republicans were America First before the Bush era of the Republican Party. And of course, we have periods of Nixon and stuff, but the point is, the history of the Republican Party in the 20th century was one opposed to Democrats' internationalism. They were viewed to be isolationists, even though Americans were widely isolationists, and they believed in putting American businesses first, Main Street, the brick and mortar mom and pop over the multinational corporation. That was the real fight of the post-progressive era, and even in the progressive era. Roosevelt, the original, the OG
That's what
Roosevelt,
I was gonna say.
was anti-monopoly and anti-multinational corporation. He was brick and mortar mom and pop. He was a little bit aggressive when it came to power, but he just thought that you could punk your way out of it. You didn't like America could punk people. Like the open door, China. He just figured they wouldn't put up a fight, and they didn't. You know, old Monroe Doctrine, manifest destiny.
Yep.
They just said okay because they were afraid. But throughout the 20th century, the America First Party, which Ronald Reagan tried to say, wait a minute, I'm not a Democrat anymore because I'm much more like what Republicans you should be, because that's what they are, until the Nixon Ford era, which kind of got us off track a little bit. Everyone was afraid of Goldwater, I'm not sure I want to get into it right now, but I kind of do have a plan. This is a great question.
Yeah.
How would Republicans keep Thune out of that seat? There would need to be a very serious and organized effort. And I don't know why. It's not like I was thinking, I have a personal beef with Thune and want to take him out. I was just thinking about representation in general, like philosophically, and how could Republicans stop him from getting in the seat? And I did manage to come up with some pretty interesting ideas. Some of it's just actually, most of it at the core is just grassroots. But what is going to happen is he's going to run around to certain people, and he is going to, and people, I mean Republican senators, and he's going to go around and start counting votes. I got your support, I got your support, I got your support. And you have to cut those votes off. One of the major reasons why Donald Trump making the Save America PAC, all right, and basically out fundraising the RNC, the National Republican Senatorial Committee, the National Republican Congressional Committee, the Republican Governors Association, is because John Thune will use that money, among other things, to wield influence. And if Donald Trump takes that money from them, then he greatly reduces his influence. So I do have quite a few ideas, but maybe that's something we have to, maybe that's something we'll have to talk about on locals, all right, or at least first on locals. A word on the undecided, were you talking about with Kamala Harris's disapproval or approval, disapproval? Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit interested in not just Kamala Harris's, but Joe Biden's as well. Look at overall, his undecided is now down to 1.6. Do you guys remember where we started it? His undecided was big. And I immediately commented on how in the Trump era, the undecided was 1 to 3%, 1.5% routinely. And now Joe Biden is in this category with this kind of disapproval. It's the idea that you can turn this around and fix it is a tall order. A very tall order, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we'll go after we'll go take a look at the registered voter economic confidence index in a little bit more detail. And I think I will explain the methodology. All right, I'll be back. Hang tight. Oh, wait. Watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. If you're on Rumble, go ahead and give us a little Rumble Plus. Subscribe. That'll let you know as well when we're going to go live. Feed the algorithms, ladies and gentlemen. If you have noticed, there is now a follow on Locals or join the Locals community, peoplespundit.locals.com on Rumble. In the future, there will be a lot more technology that help us to integrate the Locals community into Rumble. All right. So if you're a super chat giver, Rumble takes a lot less, because I know I always say don't super chat, just join the community and contribute to the public polling project, which we were underfunded on, but I did it anyway. If it's still up, if you want to help close that gap, but I did it anyway because we needed to.
Teamwork makes the dream.
Yeah, we needed to do it. So I don't even want to look how much it's underfunded. I don't want to look.
And I
don't want to look.
When other people turn around and say, "Can they just stop that guy from polling?"
Yeah, no kidding. That's the best stuff. That's the point of this. That is absolutely is the point of this. 100%. Beings. Look, before the break, but we are making a difference here. whether they want to acknowledge it or not. It's happening. And also, of course, like I said, watch more on Rumble if you can. There will be more integrations into the locals community, and you can see right there where you can join on locals now and make it much easier to join the community at peoplespundit.locals.com, which is by far one of the coolest communities on locals, if I do say so myself. All right. You can follow me on Getter at People's Pundit on Getter, and on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. We will be back in about 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love just for a little fun? I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Whoops. I don't know if she heard that. You heard that one, guys, but that's Laura behind the scenes for you. All right. Moving on here. Let's bring up the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index. Let's do that. Stop that share. Bring up the next one. Got a flip flop. I could show you the overall trend, but it really doesn't do it justice until you look at the indicators. All right. So there's the overall trend. All right. So you can clearly see when we started this, it was tracking. Look, again, this survey is a relative value survey, so it is designed not to be volatile. You really shouldn't be seeing really large swings from one month to another. Mm-hmm. All right. It is the positive divided by, you're given positive, neutral, or negative as choices on each of the sub indicators. Current business conditions, current employment conditions. They make up the present situation index. You have the 6-month outlook for both of those: future business conditions, future employment conditions, and then total family income, expected total family income, which is, again, the 6-month outlook. And they make up the future, or the expectations index. Together, all 5 of them, averaged together, once those sub-indicators or relative values are calculated, all 5 of those relative values averaged together make up the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index. The 2 current condition sub-indicators, Their relative values averaged together make up the expectation. The present situation. All right. The latter three averaged together their relative values. They make up the expectations index. Combined, that's a better way to explain it. All right. You take the number of the sum, or really the positive, and divide it by the sum of the positive and negative. All right. Which is why neutral matters, even if they're neutral, changes from month to month. It's still going to have an impact,
Yes,
of
it
course.
still changes.
Even though it's not technically in the equation to calculate it, it does have an impact because you're taking away a certain percentage of what can be values in A and B. All right. So I hope that makes sense to some people, but probably not. Okay.
I
But
followed it.
yeah, I mean, I've written it pretty much in detail on locals, and there will be a page on Big Data Poll once all of this goes on Big Data Poll. Hopefully, locals will be able to help us with that integration. So essentially, locals, you will be entered. If you've been on Big Data Poll's website, you know how it works. There's a client portal. Clients who hire us get to log into their portal, see prior surveys, see invoices, see estimates, see paid, see this, see bills that are due, that are paid, and they're able to see all of the projects they have. I'm hoping all of locals basically will be put in as a client. Much of the public will be able to see the top line trends for stuff, but they won't be able to check out the history, the deep dive, unless you're a locals community. Look, I don't really care anymore what anybody says. This is a locals project for the most part, even though we stream on YouTube and we talk about the results. This is a locals project. This is a locals poll. We do this as an exercise for you, for the community. And yeah, it's to make an impact, but that's what it's about. I don't really care if people don't like how we're going to do it or not. I'm done caring anymore. I really am. I'm over it. But in any event, because these are relative values, the only difference between the Consumer Confidence Index and what we do, well, there's several. They're the overall consumer file. They're targeting all Americans, all adults. We are only targeting registered voters because we're looking for predictive value. And we won't know that for a long time, but the plan here is to continue this index for many, many years to come. And then also, we don't use 1985 as a baseline. 1985 equals 100. If we did, we'd have to go back and calculate what it was under Donald Trump. All right. Or at least we do have a way that we could get toward the end of his administration. And that's because I was flirting with this before we did this for locals.
Should I be jealous?
And we could make that a relative, but I'd really just rather keep it this way. You could clearly see when Joe Biden was inaugurated, this index was higher. It even ticked up all the way to June. On June 7th, it actually went slightly higher because if you can see the red there's the present situation index. It increased even as the expectations index barely increased. It increased 0.1 of a percentage point. It was the present situation index went from 46.6 to 50.3, which brought the overall confidence index from 56.1 to 57.7. What happened over the period of time is that people had told us, look at the blue, was flat. People had told us we have high expectations for the future, even though right now we're not feeling so great. All the way into June, they did start to feel a little bit better about their current situation. And they had high hopes for the future. But the future came and the current situation deteriorated for them. And over a 6-month period, it's just the beginning. Again, it's asking, how do you think you're going to be doing 6 months from now? 6 months came. And what happened is that their current situation got worse. So that compounds with sentiment. Well, how much hope now do I have for the next 6 months? This is why the data supports me when I say that it did not have to be like this. People feel like it did not have to be like this. They had high hopes. But their reality hit them. And total family income had no small part in that. And I think I'm probably going to have to share it. We're trying to fix this, but here you go. Here gets crazy chart number 1.
Crazy chart number
I mean, this
1.
is what it does. Look, and I
Oh,
got to
no.
scroll all the way down. I don't know what is doing this, but they're looking into it. But anyway, look, the expectations for total family income started at 60.3, the relative value. It ended up going up, ticking up as time went on. By June, it was 60.7. However, by the end of the summer, and we did have the Delta variant, all that problem, but what we also had, folks, were a lot of bad economic reports. The Biden administration loves to tout all the top line jobs number. But the fact is, those jobs suck. They suck. They're not higher paying good jobs. There is the Biden base or the Democratic base of professional class that really was not hurt by the shutdown at all. So the creation of those jobs, really no surprise. It is what surprised them was that we almost recouped all of construction by the time Donald Trump came along. By the time Donald Trump left office, I mean, from the shutdown to the time he left office, we had recouped almost everything in construction. So now why are we back down to the 70% of level? All right. In manufacturing, 20% of manufacturing came back that very next month after the shutdown ended. But it's just not keeping up. Goods producing sectors, which pay more and are working class family creators, they're not there. They're absent. It's not happening. We're reverting back to a services economy the way it was under Barack Obama. All right. So you can tell people these numbers and you can play around with the unemployment number, which is a joke. But people know it because they live it. It's the same reason why Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton failed to make the case to voters that Obama repaired the economy in 2016. And why Joe Biden is going to fail and Democrats are going to fail to make the similar argument going into 2022. And if things don't get better, going into 2024. Now inflation is out of control, which is why you see the expectations for total family income dive from 60.3 to now 50.1. A 10.2% decline in this index is a very big decline. It's designed to go within the sampling error little by little by little. So you can track overall trends over time, but not big jumps here and there. It shouldn't be doing that. All right. And of course, current employment conditions had risen 45.6 to 48.7 by midsummer, then dove again to 42.8 by end of summer. Come to the fall, went back a little bit, 44, which we had hope in the fall, maybe in the beginning of the fall, or not even, the end of summer still, right? September? Until September 21st. It's still summer technically, right?
September 21st.
Whatever.
Summer, yes.
In September,
22nd is the first
going
day of fall.
Yeah, thank you. Going into the fall, right before things popped back a little bit, people thought maybe it's going to get better, but then it didn't. And well into the fall, by the end of November, we're back down to 30. Well, actually, this is a new low. I think all of these are new lows. 39.2 for current employment conditions, the sub-indicator for that. 40 for the current business conditions. And I'm sorry if I'm making people sick. I hate how this thing is laid out. 49.5 for expectations, which started out at 63. 63. Expectations for employment conditions, 6-month outlook for the jobs market, started out at 64.1, hit a high of 65, and now it's at 44.5. This blows. It's not good. Here is the fall 20, and this is actually working. Praise God. I don't have to go back and forth. All right. Positive, neutral, negative. All right. 24% gave us a positive view of current business conditions as they are now. 40.1 gave us a neutral view. 39.5 gave us a negative view, which is up from 31.9 last month. Positive is down from 27 to 24. The current employment conditions index, 27.3, gave us a positive. 42.3 gave us a negative. Negative is up from 38.5. Positive is down from 30.2. Going back, expectations for business conditions was a pretty big drop. 29.7 believes business conditions will be better, the economy overall, in 6 months. That's down from 35 plus, which I'll show you in a second. And 37.2% said they would be more negative, and that's up from 30.6. This was the future expectations index really was bad this month. All right. Expectations for a better job market, employment conditions. 32% gave us a positive view of that. 36.7 gave us a negative. 32 is down from 37.4 positive, and 37% negative is up from 30.6. So it's just bad. It's bad. It's just bad across the board. 29.2% gave us a positive view of their expectations for total family income in 6 months. This is the inflation indicator that matters for inflation. Will your income matter? Will it be enough? Do I have a positive view of my total family income in 6 months? 29.2% were positive. 37.4 were negative. That's a 7.4% increase in negative. And positive fell again from 30.6 to 29.2. So what we saw was a big jump out of neutral and in a negative.
So the trend is nobody sees their future or their current situation
Getting better.
Not at all.
And once upon a time, at the beginning of Biden's term, they didn't think their current was great, but they thought the future would be better. I hate to tell you this, and I know the Democrats are going to have, you know what, in the comment section. That's because under Donald Trump, they felt like things were going to be better. And when Donald Trump handed the reins off to Joe Biden, what he gave everybody was a hope for a future.
Yeah.
And
then Biden ripped that.
And under Biden, that has been taken away from them. That is what is driving the numbers. And these are bad numbers for Democrats. They are not good numbers for Republicans. There's a difference.
I mean, how many times have we
This
heard?
is not an affirmation of how much people love the Republican Party.
No, but how many times have we heard I was going to buy a car, but now I'm not positive about it.
Yeah.
Or I was going to buy a house. I'm ready for a house.
Prices went to the moon.
But right now, it's not a good time.
Yep.
Because they're not sure whether their job is going to be there or if there's going to be something that happens again and everything shuts down.
Or they feel they missed the boat.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
It's sad.
Vinyl, wood, lumber. All of this is ridiculously... Folks, when you build a house, your siding is vinyl. The framing is wood. The wiring is copper. This is all very bad. Housing, those indicators, I can't believe even people in the Biden administration last week wanted to tout them. That's bad for the average person. You want home prices to increase modestly. Not like this. Not because the cost of it is so much. You want costs to be stable, generally stable, and modestly increase. No asset that you can own that screams to a high value within an appropriate, before an appropriate amount of time is a good thing. That says bubble, warning, bubble. So, but I got to say again, this is not an affirmation of the Republican Party by any means. It is not at all. It's an unhappiness with what's going on. All right. Look at, am I blocking stuff here? I am. I may have to remove myself here let me get the solo layout just so you guys can see everything. Let's focus on the top here. Economy and jobs is still the number one issue in the country, but only by 1 point. And truth be told, these are both economic issues. A majority of the country would choose an economic issue, period. All right. Cost of living is now right behind economy and jobs, 1 point. 23.2% said cost of living. If we look at the detail, what do I mean by detail? You know, of that nearly quarter of people we spoke to who told us cost of living was their number one issue, we then asked them, please tell us specifically regarding cost of living and inflation, which would you say most concerns you? In other words, why did you pick cost of living? What is it? 47.7% said groceries.
That made me
Blew us
upset.
away. Blew us away.
Made me upset.
We thought it was going to be housing and shelter,
Mhm.
or definitely gas prices was going to be like really one of the, because gas is now getting, I mean, it's out of control depending on where, it's crazy. Not even my Harris Teeter points are making a difference that much anymore. All right. I mean, look, I'll explain to people. I have a Subaru Ascent. Once upon a time, I could fill it up. Well, we got a family, you know. Once upon a time, I could fill it up and use my Harris Teeter points, which you get from grocery store shopping. And you could take like whack half of it off the bill, and maybe I was talking about Jack about this too the other day. You know, maybe 25, 30 bucks to fill the tank. It's 60 bucks now. It's $60, $50 to $60. And that is not an increase many Americans can deal with. It's a shock to your wallet. Because guess what? Your driving's not going to decrease. If not, if you're I mean, of course, that you can change your habits, your transportation habits. And people do in many occasions. But if you are a family, you know, middle to working class, you can't change your drive. Maybe you got kids. They got to go to the soccer things, their band things, their whatever clubs. Maybe you live in a district. They don't even have school buses. You bring them back and forth to school. You got to go grocery shopping. The kids got doctor appointments. You got to bring them to get their haircuts. Right? I mean, you can't stop it that much. And you got to get back and forth to work. Even if you work at home, you still have all that other stuff. So to double the cost of that in such a short amount of time is a lot to ask people to do.
You gave Florian said, keep in mind the mileage tax too.
I mean, well, wait, just wait.
Mm-hmm.
And especially now, since I think some people are maybe coming to the realization that they're doing this on purpose.
Yes.
This is ideological. I mean, Joe Biden releasing the strategic reserves. That is so stupid. I hate it when Democrats do that. First of all, they're for real emergencies. Second of all, any economist, every economist, even left-wing economists, unless you're a total hack and you're going to lie on TV, will tell you there is a wealth of data on this. It doesn't do anything. And I saw somebody say it on Twitter, and it was a really good analogy. It's like taking money from your savings account, putting it into your checking account, and thinking you're suddenly rich. And now you're going to have enough money to deal with everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Not to mention, it simply doesn't make a dent. It does not make a dent. Food, groceries. I don't know why housing and shelter is number 3 here. I got to fix that. It should be in order. Mm-hmm. It's not kind of just laid out. Looks like I forgot to do it, actually. Whoops. Food and groceries, easily number 1. Nearly half of people who said that. Second was housing and shelter, followed way behind at 18.9%. Closely behind housing and shelter is gas and fuel at 16.4%. And then taxes and taxation, which is what, who just said that? They're thinking of that. Believe you me, they're thinking of it. Taxes, 7%, 6.9%. Did say taxes. Medical and healthcare costs, 5.5%. Utilities and electric, 4.3%. And I put this like this on purpose because Laura and I wanted to mimic the consumer price index. We wanted to, well, that's it. Mimic the consumer price index. That's how we gauge inflation in this country. So, or at least that's how, the Bureau of Labor Statistics measures it. We wanted to know whether or not we would see something on par with what they see, but also using the categories that they use. All right. And I can't help but to wonder, because it's always something I thought may have been a flaw with the CPI, is how you present to people. You really got to make it clear to people that gas can be in another category. If you're talking about fuel, utilities, it can be in that, because a lot of people in the Northeast still have like oil, they have to heat their houses. By the way, oil will be double this year to heat your home. Could you imagine the house in Jersey?
Oh, Lord.
Could you imagine heating that house in Jersey this year?
And then Jersey taxes on top of that? Yeah, right. No, thank you.
Laura, that would have been bad.
Fortune.
If you guys are from the Northeast, you know what we're talking about. You got a tank, the truck comes, all right? You will be cold if you don't have oil, and that's it.
SOL.
You are SOL. And it is not cheap. And to be at the cost it is now, again, after 4 years of declines. I feel bad for people who still live up there. I do.
What was Murphy's famous line? If you don't like high taxes, move out of Jersey or something to that extent?
Yep.
Oh, that's real smooth.
Ironically, housing and shelter is the Northeast was number 2 there, but the Northeast led on taxation. Taxes and taxation. I thought that was pretty interesting. I wanted to show that because one of the biggest things we heard from people on with this survey was that Trump led Biden even in the Northeast. Let me make this. He did. He had a tiny little lead on him even in the Northeast. Let me make it clear. I think when the undecideds break, obviously Trump is going to fall behind. I think what you're seeing is that Trump's base is just solid and it's not going anywhere. And Biden's base is getting loosey-goosey.
Yes.
So, in the South, Trump would crush Biden. In the West, it's a fight. In the Midwest, Trump wins. And in the Northeast, I think ultimately, once those people decided, obviously think Biden would overtake him, unless that third party, someone else, doesn't significantly decline, which is why Trump was doing so much better than Biden, because there are no Trump voters who say, you know what, if he runs again in 2024, I'm going to vote for a third party candidate. Now, some of you may say, I'm one of them. Honestly, you're 2%. That's what you are. Roughly 2%. Now, there is always a number in statistics. We can always find somebody somewhere. But that is nowhere near what Joe Biden has. There are many, many, many more, by a factor of 3 or 4, I think, Biden voters who say, I'll vote for someone else. And then by a factor of 2, there are more Biden voters who say, I'll vote for the other guy. So Biden's like, Trump has 90 plus base support and Biden is in the 70s because he's losing so much to third party. He's losing some to Donald Trump. It's not good. That's why he's if everybody coalesced and came back, it would be closer. By the way, for a question, which I thought was a great question, I started to talk about it in the other show when we first released this. Joe Biden takes the lead in a D+8, right? Because it was D+6 and Trump still led by 2.
Yeah.
In a D+8, Joe Biden would need a national electorate of D+8, and liberals would have to be 28%, roughly 27. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah.
We'll go back and we'll put that variable in there, and you'll be. I think I can get it so you can change the variable. Which one are you applying? The typical, Aristotle National Voter File Database, register voters only, or we can give you like a high Democratic turnout variable, because there is no D+6 to 8 national advantage right now. If you include every record excluding change of address flags and deceased, you're at D+4. If you start to really look for like double duplicate records and maiden names and all other stuff, you're only looking at D+2. So we were really fair here. D plus 2 to 4 is as high as it's getting for Democrats nationally. And I'm not talking about the midterm electorate, because I'm uncomfortable with some of the Republican advantage like we have seen. The R pluses nationally, yeah, that could happen. It probably is going to happen. It was something like, an advantage we haven't seen since like 10, maybe. Or I'd have to go back and check and do some history, but it's not going to be D plus 8, folks. That's not happening. Just like I told everybody, Virginia wasn't going to be D plus 3 to 6. It's a joke. D plus 1. And what did I say? McAuliffe needed D plus 2 or more to win. It was D plus 1, and he lost. All right. Moving on. Most important issue. Let's actually keep by region and go back to most important issue. By region, jobs in the economy in the Northeast, cost of living, though, of course, went and it took off. I mean, it's not 12%, 10% anymore, and nearly double. Midwest, cost of living. In the West, cost of living overtook jobs in the economy. And in the South, it's about equal. It's about equal. Here's another thing, too, that's hurting Democrats. Coronavirus vaccination and mandates. If you look at the most important issues, and I'm not going to do this too much because I went over this with George and Peter quite a bit. If you look at the head-to-heads or the generic ballots, for instance, on the important issues, Democrats just don't have the lead on some of these issues they once had. On the environment and climate change, that's their biggest lead, 75-5 to 12. All right. On coronavirus, which was their big issue in 2020, the Democratic candidate is favored by 47% of COVID and mandate voters, 39% favor Republicans. So it's a single-digit lead. And why is that? Because, which used to be 2-3 to 1, depending on some of the polls in 2020. That is because more people care now about the imposition of mandates and lockdowns than they do about the old narrative, which was don't be irresponsible, don't be a super spreader. They've moved on from that attitude. No matter how much Fauci and company try to make Omicron another reason to lock this country down, they do it, so help them God. Democrats will get destroyed. They're just people who will vote Republican for the first time ever in their lives because they can't afford it. They can't do it. It's not political anymore. Now it's about survival, and I can't do this. Which is why somebody who tweeted earlier, I'm not going to say, who said it was brilliant. As a political strategy, it's brilliant. Voting Democrat equals forever worrying about whether your business is ever going to be safe, your job is ever going to be secure, and your children are ever going to be able to go to school.
Or food on the table.
That is, that kind of thing. That is probably among the most powerful arguments against Democrats going into 2022.
These are all Republican issues.
This is the
that
thing.
They excel in.
Republicans don't lead typically in some of these issues we're going to go over, and they sure as hell don't lead by these kind of margins. And then on issues they're losing, they're not losing by the margins they usually lose them on. The economy and jobs, 54-33, Republican advantage. Cost of living, 57-31, Republican advantage. Coronavirus, again, vaccination mandate, 47-39, Democrat advantage, less than 10 points. Not good enough. Healthcare, 57-22, Democrat advantage. That is the fourth largest issue, and that's a good lead for Democrats. The problem is that it's really a distant fourth. Mm-hmm. It's not close.
It's way down there.
Yeah, it's way down. Crime, policing and safety, 56-30, Republican advantage. Environment and climate change, 76-12, Democrat advantage. Second Amendment, gun laws, gun rights, 55-25, Republican advantage. Public education, 54-34, Republican advantage. We saw this in Virginia. Don't forget. And people were skeptical. Republican candidates don't lead on education. Well, Glenn Youngkin did. And I'm telling you, nationally, Republicans do too. Other write-ins, which is dominated by election reform and immigration, is a 62 to 24 Republican advantage. Abortion is 53 to 31 Republican advantage, which, again, we saw in Virginia. That was 60-40. Glenn Youngkin carried those voters. So I'm not at all surprised. If you look at Trump v. Biden, it's an even bigger bloodbath on cost of living. Economy is 18.4. Coronavirus, again, Biden doesn't do that much better. He gets a little bit higher, while Trump gets a little bit less. But that reinforces it's still not even 10 points. I mean, it's still not, these huge, I think it was 75-25 in November 2020 when we were polling it. It was huge. Crime, Trump kills him. Second Amendment, public education, Trump is even winning on public education. The other, Trump has a bigger lead than Republicans because voters trust Trump more than Republicans on election reform and immigration. Way more than generic Republicans. And on the economy and even on abortion. So, I mean, it's just a cost of living is a very big lead. So, yeah, there you have it. I mean, it's questions. You want to ask a question? It's all right. Throw in a question here. The only thing I wanted to go over real quick before we go, and I can do that, is some of the booster status and the COVID mandate stuff. All right, because I don't want to leave too much for another thing. I wanted to talk about Juicy. Juicy's trial, I wanted to talk about a little bit, and redistricting, but we'll have to save that, I guess. I got maps for you guys in California. It's going to be cool.
Okay. So, hi, Rich. Love to hear more about Connecticut. Have you heard anything good or bad about the Senate challenger?
Yeah, Connecticut is like an entire thing I could piggyback off of. It's not... I think Connecticut has the potential to swing really hard. Connecticut, to the nutmeg state in midterm elections, doesn't look very like a presidential election at all. And it's not as blue and has never really been in these midterm cycles. In the gubernatorial levels, their governor races are decided by razor-thin margins. And I think that Connecticut absolutely could be a sleeper this cycle. There's no doubt. Look at New Jersey. And the truth is, Connecticut may have a lopsided share of urban versus rural, but they don't have as much urban vote as New Jersey. So it would suggest that it's possible. I don't want to give an opinion about who he's asking about because I'm just not comfortable doing that yet. But I don't want to say someone's bad just because I don't know enough about him.
TBD.
But if I don't know enough about him, I'm not going to say they represent your values if you're a Republican or a Democrat or whatever, so TBD.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Connecticut has always been a sleeper for me. Always.
Joel would like to know, how could Dr. Oz have been corrupted by the neocon perpetual wars rhino Republicans already? His business had nothing to do with their money.
Yeah, I don't think he has been. I think that may be an unfair
assessment.
Yeah, I do. Look, I think you'll find Dr. Oz had a lot of secret America First positions. However, he also has this desire to want to appear to be reasonable, moderate. All right. So there's going to be a struggle there with Dr. Oz because I know, and I do know for a fact, he was highly skeptical. He was worried about this pandemic, but he was highly, highly skeptical from the very beginning about all of these lockdowns. He just couldn't find any other time period in U.S. in any history where we ever behaved and has understood SARS viruses, went around and spoke to a lot of people who had been giving regimens of treatments of certain drugs that I'm not allowed to mention on YouTube and couldn't understand why news organizations wouldn't cover it. Couldn't understand why Dr. Fauci was adamantly opposed to it. I think you'll find some of the criticism he's getting is unfair. However, there will be some issues where a Trump Republican is not going to like him. All right. And I'll tell you what, we'll try to get him. All right. We'll try to get him and vet him for you on the show. All right. Let's see if we can do that. Cause I think he's an interesting candidate. And I got to tell you, Pennsylvania is moving Republican, but it's not easy. It's not an easy state to win. So it's a smart pick politically right now, especially if you're looking at how are voters in the southeastern part of Pennsylvania going to react. They were COVID crazy in 2020, and they thought Donald Trump was reckless and crass. Well, how's someone like Dr. Oz going to look to them? Pretty good, probably. Now the question is, can he run up that conservative margin in the red T areas? Can he do it? In the red areas of the T, can he do it? And that remains to be seen. How will Lackawanna feel about him?
Yeah.
How will Erie and other parts, I don't know. We'll just have to see. Luzerne,
JD Freeze would like to know, how might abortion case at SCOTUS affect things?
Oh, that's a question for Robert. Or you mean politically?
Yeah.
That's actually okay. That I can answer.
Okay.
And obviously talking about Mississippi. So, I am not a big believer that abortion amps up the left anymore, because, and you remember from our polling on this, the left or the Democrat position on abortion has become unpopular. If you simply ask about the pro-choice versus pro-life designation, it's very close. You saw what we had. Very close. Gallup is very close now. Even though the pro-choice designation during the 90s had a huge lead, and in the early 2000s had a huge lead, it really started to drop out under Bush, and science has not been favorable to that. So, they're lucky to get a +2 at this point nationally. And even their voters, when you ask them about specific things, their voters don't approve of what they're talking about. So you may amp up that uber left graduate student anyway, who thinks like, I'm not going to have a baby and destroy my academic life. Right. She's going to vote anyway. Who would it really amp up are those conservative Hispanics in South Texas who repeatedly vote Democrat but are horrified by the practices of abortion. It will amp up the evangelical in Iowa and Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. That's who it amps. It used to be that it did amp the left, but the problem is they shrunk. That true pro-choice left-wing abortionist is not the voting bloc it used to be. And it is very easy. Donald Trump took it out. He neutralized it in one statement. Yeah. In a debate with Hillary Clinton. I keep trying to explain this to people. They're afraid. Republicans still afraid of being labeled like Todd Aiken or Luther, whatever his name was. That's over. Unless you're an idiot and you talk about rape like Todd did. A moron. All right? But that's over because Americans don't agree with them anymore. Donald Trump turned to the stage and said, Hillary, you'd rip a baby out of the womb at 9 months. It was over.
Yep. Done.
Over. That was it. And that's all you got to do. Because guess what? They would rip a baby out of the womb at 9 months.
And that stuck with people. Even
it did. It horrified people. That horrified people. Oh my God! I should not have. Because I didn't.
We didn't
Trump.
know that was
freaking Trump.
Yeah, no.
He does that. But you know what? I should have known better. It was Trump and Hillary, for crying out loud.
Went around and called.
But my daughter was like, "What?" I was like, "Oh my God, no!" She's like, "She's such a bad person." Remember that? I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
I had to consult my daughter for like.
Oh wow! I mean, my son was just like, "They do that," and he was like, "So you have to explain abortion to me? They do that?" So like, there's this new science that we have now. It's no longer clear that if you're young, you're going to be an abortionist. You're going to be pro-abortion. That's not true anymore. Like it was in the day Laura and I grew up, where you're like health teacher who doubled as your like gym coach, right? Talk to you about how it's okay to get rid of fetuses. That's over. That doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, they don't have that science anymore. Now the science is why the heartbeat pill passed. Yep. Why the Pain Protection Act was so supported. I mean, people get horrified when they really do realize the practice of it. So I that's a great question. I just don't see it helping the left the way it used to. And check out the do I still have it up here? Let me see. I could oh wow, I'm not even on the screen anymore. I'm sorry guys. I could pull it up and give it to you guys so you guys can see it. I'm just not seeing it anymore in the numbers. But if you don't have it, I'll go back and find the link where you can check it for yourself and you guys can do some cross tabs. Take pro-choice versus pro-life and cross it against belief in that whether abortion should be legal in certain terms of pregnancies and under certain conditions. You'll be stunned how many pro-choice, self-described pro-choice people will support the heartbeat bill, will definitely oppose late-term abortion. Like 6 months and up is a deal breaker for women, a deal breaker. So this idea like you're going to piss off the women vote, oh, you're going to drive away the female suburban vote. The female suburban vote has been horrified over late-term abortion since Dr. Gosnell.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
he put the nail in the
he really he raised awareness.
Yep.
He raised awareness.
Do you think
Looking
we
at my
can
glass.
do a question about Kamala Harris, and does Kamala Harris support the Black community? To find out.
Yes.
Right?
Something like that. Like, do you think Kamala Harris represents the values of the Black community?
Yeah.
Kind of thing? That's a fair game question.
I think so.
I think it's pretty interesting too. And thank you, Tony Alto. If I said that wrong, Tony Alto,
Yeah.
right? If I would also point something out is that she does worse with Black voters against Trump than Joe Biden does.
But I think it would squash that whole entire Kamala Harris's.
I'm not there to squash it or not. I'm just there to tell what it is.
Really
you know.
would, let's be honest. And from Tony Alto. Also.
Yeah, and I just want to put that I'm not saying abortion is not a thing. It is. There's still diehard abortion voters out there. I'm just saying that people believe very differently than they used to. And you know what? While I'm fielding another question, I'll actually try to find it.
Well, Tony Alto wanted to say, topple the turtle campaign since right before the election. Mitch is dangerous as he does not want to be reelected. He is done.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, though. You know, that's another great doozy of a decision by Donald J. Trump. You know, and Paul Ryan as well. I mean, these are people who should never have been, when he was elected, they should never, Laura, have been in his movement. I mean, it was really incredibly stupid to just expect it.
Richard Warder. But doesn't the fact that Republicans end up in the horrible leadership actually mean we, the voters, are more to blame? There needs to be more focus on primaries.
Voters. I think I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would agree with that. Can anybody remember whether we asked about abortion in late summer or early spring? Why the hell am I not finding it?
We did ask it, and I remember.
There's the District of Columbia crosstabs. You know what's funny? Actually, I think. Oh, he may have unpinned it. There's a person who does polls, like tweets polls, all polls that come out, and he had pinned the heartbeat poll, and I wonder if it's still there.
Are you gonna?
It is. I got it.
Are you gonna do a Nevada poll or New Hampshire poll?
I'm not sure yet. I don't know what we're gonna do in battleground states. I just don't know how much there's gonna be. And I have to kind of stay away. By the way, Trafalgar just came out 15 minutes ago. He has independence exactly where we have independence, 2962. His approve or disapprove is 36 approve, 59 disapprove. So do me a favor, you critics, and kiss my
booty.
I hate these people. I can't stand them. You idiots, of course I'm right. Your loser of a poll authority is an idiot. Unless you like to be lied to, by all means, keep looking at it. Of course I'm right. I've been right consecutively for almost a decade when you have been wrong almost a decade. This is getting kind of tiring. Of course I'm right. Everybody follows the People's Pundit wagon. See that? You hear those steps? That's all the other ones trotting behind me. Trying to catch up. You hear that?
Oh, now they're on horseback?
Yep. Trying to catch up to Rich.
Well, Captain
You're not going to
Wines
be able to.
said Rich wants to thank you for streaming on YouTube. It took me a long time to find good information.
You're so welcome. And I really appreciate that. I do.
And Pete also said, Rich serves a buffet of information. Even these poll leftovers are tasty.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to tweet the link, by the way, to the abortion thing right now.
Awesome.
He actually did take the link where I just isolated the abortion questions,
That's
which is
cool.
really cool. And that means you'll be able to take the pro-life versus pro-choice designation. Select a column demographic variable, which is the one on the right. Choose abortion designation, okay? And then just run through all, and it'll show you pro-choice first, pro-life, and then unsure. After a heartbeat has been detected, do you support or oppose abortion being legal during each of the following stages? 21.4% of pro-choice people supported the heartbeat bill. And then unsure, no opinion was oppose galore. Pro-life was 77.3% in opposition in opposition to allowing abortion during that. Meanwhile, 25.4% of people who are pro-choice said they weren't sure. They didn't know. When babies can feel pain, a third of the pro-choice, designation opposed it. Only 37% of people who are pro-choice. That's 20 weeks, folks. It's 20 weeks. During the final 3 months of pregnancy, 55, a majority of so-called pro-choice voters oppose late-term abortion. And on. Anytime during the pregnancy, 31% of pro-choice voters. So these are people who will tell you they're pro-choice simply because they're still hanging on to the old crap they've been told and the rape and incest thing, right? Which is, as you know, if you've studied this issue, infinitesimal. It's almost non-existent.
Is it
All right?
even a percentage?
By the way,
It's like,
I met a guy who was I don't want to get into it. The product of rapes can grow up to be super good people too. The cop
just
in
let it
Texas.
go. Yeah, but that's
all
like,
I'm saying.
That's
It's all
slippery
I know.
slope.
I know. I'm just saying. I mean, if he wasn't born and he didn't live, think about how it would have affected all the lives of the people he helped. Think about that.
I get it. 100%.
Mind blown. Right?
All right. So
Let's go.
Tony
Would have been
Nieves,
crazy.
Does Rich have where did it go? Oh, sorry. I was thinking about this over the weekend, but I thought it would be good if Rich added a happiness question or an index to the poll so we can measure by state.
So you're saying a well-being index almost.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely do. We used to do, you remember years ago, actually, we did do something like that once. And also the religiosity index, which was really cool for different states. And it actually had quite a bit of predictive value in North Carolina, by the way. And in other states. I'm just saying that North Carolina was one because of the polls in the model in 14. The model was right and the polling was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I should never have let the public polling weigh so much as a single variable on that. But the religiosity index showed that North Carolina may have looked at the surface that it could be more democratic, and maybe Kay Hagan could hold on. It got more religious, which was like a warning that religiosity is a strong predictive indicator on how you're going to vote. A very strong. It's one of the strongest, actually, beyond party. Nobody talks about it, but that's because they don't understand it. Gallup does, or did. They're different people there now. But that would be, I love the idea of a well-being index. How happy are you?
Mm-hmm.
How often do you feel anxiety? This is something we had done in the past, right? Would you normally consider yourself content in your life? Really cool stuff. Trying to figure out, and the reason why I brought that up is Gallup has a well-being, or did. I don't know if they still do. But I thought when I looked at it, there could be a lot of other things that could be added to that. I really like that idea. I do. I forgot all about
Rich
that.
processes things that he really likes.
It's a great idea.
All right. So on that note, funny story. Thanksgiving Day, we you all know we had Don and Brenda over, which was wonderful.
Oh, what a fantastic
And
day.
so there was almost a Thanksgiving Day disaster. So Lord really didn't want to do dishes, on that day. So I got
Who
one
does?
of those aluminum pans to cook that turkey.
The
pan.
aluminum roasters
Yeah.
with the crappy little handles.
Note to self. I will never ever do that again because it sprung a leak all over my stove, all over my floor, and turkey was delayed by an hour, but still came out delicioso. And so that was my fun turkey Thanksgiving disaster success story.
I'm like, baby, it's smoking. I think it's leaking. And she's like, no, it's just because when I moved it and put it in there, and then I took it out, moved it around. I'm like, I didn't move it at all, like tilt it at all, because it was heavy. I said, I didn't tilt it at all, and it's still dripping. It's coming from the bottom. I don't know. I don't think, you know what it was? I think like a carrot was plugging it here and there, so it wasn't completely just dripping.
And then I went
but every time it would move, you went under it, you didn't feel anything, but and then eventually something just moved. The carrot or something just moved, and it just started to come out. It's a good thing she always overdoes that trimming, the raw. So there was like plenty, and we caught it in time, and then we threw it in a metal roaster. But I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you one that's easier to handle, because that metal roaster cut your hands putting it in there. So we're gonna get you one that's dope, baby. Don't worry. The turkey was fantastic.
I am so.
And the yams were the best I think you've ever made. The green bean casserole was but we're Italian. We had ziti. She was a little pissed.
Oh, let's not even
She was a
talk
little
about
pissed
the
because
ziti.
Dawn had never had ziti before, and she left.
And
it
I
in a
tried to
little
make
too
it the
long.
way Rich likes it, and I like my ziti saucy.
Yeah, it was because
Rich
she did it
doesn't.
the way I do it for the first time, and you have to be very. You can't be doing
Particular.
anything else. I'll tell you that. I didn't realize it. I should have helped you with it. I like mine cheesy and a little drier. She likes hers more garlicky and saucier, and I like mine.
And of course, the second ziti that I made was perfect.
But now you're making me so hungry. Yeah, the second ziti was a backup ziti. I'm so sorry, Don. You didn't get it, buddy. It was delicious. Now she's done made me hungry. The turkey was amazing, and I'm a white meat kind of guy, but I had gotten the wrong thing. I think I took like a thigh or something, and
a piece of my thigh.
a piece of your thigh. And Laura was like, "No, I don't want that part." So I said, "All right, here, take your thing, and then I'll take this. I'll just eat it. I don't want to put it on the plate. I don't want to mess around." And I took a little bit of white meat and said, "Man, that dark meat." I took a bite out. I was like, "Woo! I've been missing out." Now, I just like white, always did. But man, oh man, that was delicious. Yeah. Oh, Tata. Oh, sorry to hear that. The electricity went out Wednesday night as she was making the pumpkin pie.
Shut the front door.
An hour and a half later, she finished baking, but they had already set, and it turned out bad. The texture was awful. I had to start over. That
so sorry.
Sucks. I am so sorry to hear that. Yeah, no ziti that night, DJ. Well, there was ziti, it just was dry. And then the next day, she made the backup, and it was to die for. Yeah. Vanessa's like, my pumpkin pie turned out great. Vanessa, poor Tata. But the pumpkin pie was outrageous, Laura. I mean, that was everything was outrageous except for that little ziti incident. Everything was outrageous. And the mushrooms, stuffed mushrooms, the stuffing. It's tradition. I'm not a fan of green bean casserole, but my son likes it and it's tradition. He actually now has taken it over, and he makes it with my wife. And I actually liked it this year. That's how good it was. I don't like green bean casserole. It's just tradition. Anyway, where'd it go? Now you've done made me hungry. All right, guys, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna run to a couple of errands I gotta do, and then I'll let you know as soon as I hear something with how we're going to hook this up, because Big Data Poll is going to be going through some changes. We already did some slider changes, and I think they look really cool, but I think I need to figure out, they're integrating with Rumble, and I think I need to figure that out as well. It is not really fair to have locals and everybody who contributes go through all they go through, and then everyone get every part of the result. I just don't see how that's fair. So, people will get like general understanding of it, And then if you're a locals, I'm going to figure out how to make you like a client is made in Big Data. That's the game plan. And I'll keep you posted on it because I really think that'll give you more value. All right. Than me just texting links or posting links on locals, to which people grab all the time and post everywhere anyway. So I just don't want to feel like I'm devaluing you, you know? All right. With that in mind, I'm going to kick rocks. Don't forget, follow on Getter at People's Pundit, on Twitter at People's_Pundit. If you're watching on YouTube still, hit the like button. We always like those likes. If you don't like the video, hit the down button. Whatever. What are you going to do? It's supposed to be a free country. All right. But definitely, if you like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and that'll let you know when we're going to go live. And the Rumbles, give us one of those little pluses. Rumbles, right? What do they call them? Rumble rants. They actually are, I think they take 20 instead of 30 something. All right. So Rumble Rants actually do support us better than, what are they called? Super Chats.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, subscribe on Rumble. That will also let you know we're going to go live. It's getting integrated with locals more. So we will be pushing the Rumble link a lot more. And hopefully they will be addressing things a lot more. With that in mind, I think I got every single thing, right?
Yeah.
Follow Laura on Getter at Laura Barris. All right.
Thanks, babe.
All right. She does a better job than me. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to go. We'll see you guys soon. And locals, I'll see you very soon. Wait till you see my updated Christmas display. Leaving you hanging with the teaser. Love you guys.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow